Hello, I'm Helen Cooper, author of The Downstairs Neighbour. For this week's vlog, I've got various props with me, all of which represent something which has helped me with my writing. So the first one is this rather large pile of magazines, all writing related magazines. Most of them are Dyslexia, which I absolutely love, a magazine for women writers. There's some Writers Forum and Writing magazine in there as well. And what these represent are the fact that I absolutely hoovered up, and I still do, things about writing. So books about writing, magazines about writing, podcasts. I've been to loads and loads of workshops and classes, and I just absolutely love learning and reading about writing. And there's an ongoing debate, of course, about whether creative writing can be taught, and I really believe it can. Of course, you have to have that initial, I think, interest and maybe a flair for it, but the craft of it, there's so much to it in terms of structure, character, building an engagement with your reader, prose writing, plotting, and I think all of those things you can become better at by studying it, and that's certainly what I did, and I absolutely loved doing it. And even if I was reading or hearing the same bits of advice, there was always something that I took away, and it always gave me an idea for my own writing as well, actually hearing others talking about it. And particularly with Dyslexia, I started clipping out all the bits that I found the most useful, really, real gems of advice, and I would keep them near to me as I was writing and keep revisiting them and reminding myself. Kind of related to that as well is when I was in this period of really absorbing so much about writing and trying to get better at it, I found entering competitions really, really useful. And I've still kept most of my successes here. So the Derby Evening Telegraph short story competition from, I think it was 2009, which I was shortlisted for, a poetry competition, a couple of anthologies that I made it into because I was either placed or shortlisted in short story competitions, and they all were just so motivating. And often you get feedback as well, which is really useful. Plus you can build your writing portfolio, which I found really useful when I was approaching agents to say that I'd already had some success and some publication history. The prop I have here is a pair of quite muddy trainers, although only one of them is muddy for some reason. And what these represent is walking. So I've always found walking really useful for writing. It helps me think through ideas, sort out plot problems. And when I used to commute to Birmingham every day, and I used to write on the train, that was where I wrote most of The Downstairs Neighbour, in fact. But I used to walk to the train station for half an hour, and in that half an hour I would think about what I was going to write, and then as soon as I got onto the train I'd be off and I'd write solidly for the hour journey. And I really think that walking part was an integral part of the process and the thinking process, and I still try to do that now, even though I'm at home writing most of the time. My final prop here is my Kindle, and this represents two things. So first of all, whenever I've done a draft of my novel, I always send it to my Kindle, and I find this invaluable for editing, so it kind of makes it look like a proper book even before it's become a proper book. And it also makes it look different from what I've been typing on the computer for weeks and months. And I always spot things when I read it through on my Kindle that I wouldn't, I don't think, if I just read it through on the computer. And I can just get much more of a feel for the structure of it and the pace when I read it through on my Kindle. And the second thing that the Kindle represents is reading. This is probably the biggest thing I would emphasise in terms of being helpful for writing. And writers, of course, are usually big readers anyway. Of course they are, they love books. But I really found it useful to read widely, and as I was reading, to pay attention to, was I enjoying the book? And if so, why was I enjoying it? What was the writer doing that was making me love it so much? And I learnt so much from books that I loved just by thinking about why I loved them and then trying to apply that to my own writing. And I even go as far as to take notes sometimes on books that have really, really impressed me, to really try and dig down into why that is and what magic did the writer work, and then try to do it myself. Last but not least, leave you with a final message. Regular cups of tea, essential. Biscuits, also essential. And the odd glass of wine at the end of a long writing day, just to reward yourself. Happy writing!